Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
David Montgomery moved up 14 spots, a future 4. We flipped to 5 and a 6. The running back, outstanding production, vision, instincts, contact balance. He's elusive in the hole. And on top of that, he has unbelievable makeup and character. Riley Ridley, it's a great example of us taking the best player on our board. So there's a lot of traits we like about this player. Obviously, his size, his hands, his catching radius, his ability to win contested battles, his route running, and just increasing competition at the position. But truly, by far the best player on our board, and very excited to select him. Duke Shelley in the 6th round, a guy I feel like we've been talking about internally for a long time. So a little bit undersized, but extremely athletic, really twitchy, good ball skills, 4-year starter at K-State. His competitiveness just jumps off the tape when you're watching Duke Shelley. Creeth White from Florida Atlantic, 7th round. The first trait you're talking about this player is speed. Standout speed for this guy. Runs a 4.38. Also brings a lot of value to special teams. Stephen Denmark from Valdosta State with our final 7th round pick has ridiculous measurables. A guy that we went down there and worked out privately. Relatively new to the position, only 1 year at corner after switching from receiver. So a guy we feel has tremendous upside ahead of him. And a guy that both our defensive coaches, our special teams coaches, and our scouts were equally excited about, just working with that upside and the talent that he has.
Drink up, everybody! It's another episode of Draft on Tap. My name is Aldo Gandia, and with me, as always, is Shayne, the smartest man in the barroom, Marsaw, and Danny Shimon. Guys, how are you? I want to get your impressions on how you're feeling. Now that the draft is over, we've got a list of about 22 undrafted free agent rookies to talk about, or in some cases say, I've never heard of them. Shayne, let me start with you. How's the attitude?
Excited. Really, really excited. You know, I was excited with the way that the draft played out, and then you talk about these UDFAs. That just bumped my excitement level up a couple more notches because there's a lot of talent there. You know, this roster itself, even before adding these guys I mentioned the other day, was so deep and so young. And there's just a credit to this scouting staff and Ryan Pace and these guys for bringing them in. How many times have we said on the show, Aldo, that competition breeds success? And boy, this is going to be an awful fun camp. And it's not just a wide receiver and DBs. I mean, they're bringing in, you know, the Canadian assassin up there. This kid's going to go in there, and I'm telling you, he's not going to back down from anybody.
That's right.
And that's what you want on a young team like this. You want guys that are scrappy, that aren't, you know, it's not going to be too big for them. They're going to go out there and they're going to fight for themselves and never give up. And they're all team guys on top of it. So my excitement level is right up at the top.
Danny Shimon, where is your excitement level now that the draft is over? This is got to be like you're, going through withdrawals, right?
Yeah, I'm already popping some pills to get over my depression right now. But this is a time where, you have this big build-up for the draft. It just seems like it was yesterday. We were just doing our first, draft on tap, and we're all excited about the draft upcoming, and then we're trying to tell our fans, hey, the Bears only have 5 picks, but don't sleep on this draft. There's plenty of talent. And now it's done. It's over with. But, I echo Shayne's sentiments there in terms of the talent they're bringing in. I mean, if I could, I would go to this rookie minicamp, believe it or not, because of the amount of players that I'm intrigued with. I'm just looking at that roster that they released today, that some of the players that, I mean, just for that kicking competition, first of all, I'd ought to be there and see some of these kickers, see how they compete. And then, talking about some of these rookies that they brought in, the offensive linemen, the pass rushers, some of the DBs we were just talking about, and just see how they compete and see how they do. And I know it's not going to be top-notch, competition, but it's going to be exciting to see some of these players go out there and albeit in shorts and shells, but at least see them, live and see how they, if you're a receiver, how fast, what kind of speed do you have? How do you separate at the top of your routes? If you're a running back, can you, find the crease, find the hole, and hit it, and get into the second level quickly? Stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Definitely, and if you're moving forward to training camp, Bourbonnais, that's going to be even more exciting when you got the big boys in there, and then you put the rookie class in there as well. It's going to be a training camp that's going to be full of competition, and one where for me, every year I'm always watching that last preseason game because it's always usually the guys are on the bubble. But especially this year, because it's going to be a very competitive roster, and every spot, like Shayne said, every spot on this roster is going to be earned. It's not going to be given.
We've got to talk about a couple of things regarding the Chicago Bears before we get into discussing all these undrafted free agents. First and foremost is the Bears have locked up Leonard Floyd through the 2020 season. There's no surprise there. Shayne talked about it, I think, on our last show, that's a given that was going to happen. But, Shayne, I bet now that it's official, you are feeling even better now, right?
Yeah, we saw friend of the barroom, Lauren Cox, had a whole show on, is Leonard Floyd really worth it? And you're going for the Super Bowl. I don't care about PFF stats at this point. Has he been perfect? No. But he's also been injured and nicked up. And, as much as we want Leonard Floyd to be an elite pass rusher, he's really shown himself to be more of a complete player than I ever thought was possible. A lot of people pissed and moaned about Vic dropping him back, but when he's on and when he's motivated, Leonard Floyd makes a difference, and we saw that at the end of the year. And is he worth that number that he's going to be getting? No, not right now. He hasn't proved that he is, but this isn't a money thing for me.
Right.
You're going for the Lombardi Trophy, and I don't want Leonard Floyd going into the 2019 season with anything hanging over his head other than getting to number 12, getting to Matthew Stafford and getting to Kirk Cousins, making his impact that way. He knows he's going to be here this year and next year, and then whatever happens after that happens. But this is another reason why you saw Ryan Pace dip into the UDFA market with some of these guys like Chuck Harris and the Matthew Betts, bringing these guys in because you never know. You might get lightning in a bottle with some of these guys. You still have Isaiah Irving and Kylie Fitz. Who knows how they're going to step up? But I think he did exactly what he's got to do. And I'm a bigger fan of Leonard Floyd than some people at the bar room have been, Aldo. You know where I'm going with that one. But like I said, hopefully he makes it through this off season healthy and motivated and comes into camp ready to go, because he's in a perfect position across from number 52. Khalil Mack's obviously going to get all the attention so Leonard Floyd can eat and make a huge impact there. And I couldn't be any more excited about that, too.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to listen to Lauren's Locked On Bears podcast dedicated to the Leonard Floyd situation, but I did see his tweet that he sent out that over the last 3 years, his quarterback pressures have remained constant. The fact that despite the fact that his snaps have increased, and so I don't know if he covered, the intangibles involved in that. The fact that he had the club hand, and the fact that Khalil Mack entered the team, and the fact that they're schematically things may have changed and so forth. So the numbers sometimes do lie, contrary to what some people might think. Danny, let me get your thoughts on Leonard Floyd. And you think that with Pagano's more aggressive approach that we've heard about, that Leonard Floyd is going to have more quarterback pressures and maybe even double that number?
Well, Floyd has always seemed like he's a hot button topic for Bears fans, and because he was a first round pick, they traded up to get him. The stats haven't been there, but you and I, Aldo, and Shayne as well, have talked about this throughout last season. You saw him make plays. Yeah, sometimes it didn't register in the stat sheet, but you saw him set the hard edge and funnel the run play back inside to his teammates. You saw him generate pressure and just miss a sack, but at least he caused the quarterback to step up in the pocket or change his launch angle or move around it and causing incompletion or something like that. So you saw him affecting the game, but yet it wasn't necessarily reflected in the stats. So this is a huge year for him. I hope Pagano puts him in a better position, I should say, to provide consistent pressure off the edge. maybe dropping him back, although he is a damn good athlete, maybe dropping him back as much as not the best thing for him. Let's utilize his speed, let's utilize his length, let's see if he can get to the quarterback. Last year when they lined him up, when Vic lined him up and Mac on the same side, and he ran that tackle and stunt or loop, his speed and his ability to change directions quickly coming around that edge or in that loop up the middle really caused havoc on a lot of the quarterbacks, and you saw him have success with that. So I like to see more of that kind of stuff. Use him in games like that. Use his teammates to his advantage to get him free, to get him to the quarterback and make more plays.
The other big news that we need to address is Brad Childress being named the senior offensive coordinator. I think a lot of people are going to be happy with this move. Childress is probably the best offensive coach available to help this Bears rushing team improve. In fact, Matt Nagy, during the season, there were a couple of times where he said, us offensive coaches have to be better, too, at getting more production out of the running game. And Childress, who, when he was head coach with the Minnesota Vikings, they led the league a couple of times in rushing. Obviously, Adrian Peterson had a lot to do with that. But Childress's commitment to the run and his scheming certainly was a big help. In addition to that, Childress has history with Matt Nagy. They've coached together. Childress was with the team during training camp last year. Childress comes from the Andy Reid School of Coaching, so this has to be a good move all the way around, even for you, Shayne Marsaw.
Yeah, well, I'll give Chachi some love here. Chachi wanted him as a head coach, and I did not want that.
No.
As an offensive, assistant, absolutely. And I think you said it, Aldo. I think last year there was a lot of times where Childress would have been, hey, Matt, no, we're not, it's 3rd and 1. We got a 235-pound horse back there. Let's get the first down. Let's not dump it off to our fourth string running back here to make a play. And, little things like that, as smart as Matt Nagy is, sometimes you need that person that's been through it over your head. And I think Brad Childress could have possibly been the difference in the playoffs for us too, quite honestly, because, we're calling Matt Nagy the evil genius. And yes, I know it was a huge deal that Trey Burton went out, but how does, Tariq Cohen just all of a sudden non-existent in the playoff game? And, that's where having another bright offensive mind in there can help. And I'm going to look at this move, quite honestly, as one of the biggest moves of the offseason for the Bears, because I just think it's another guy in that room. Matt Nagy's the head guy. He's not just going to be involved with just the guys on offense. Brad Childress is the offensive, senior assistant. He's going to be there with Mitch. He's going to be running things by Dave Ragone. He's going to be running things by Helfrich. While Matt Nagy's, maybe focusing on something that happened on the defensive side of the ball and taking care of that. And that's, how it is, Danny and Aldo. We've all been through this and see how hectic an NFL game is. Having one more guy down there, another set of eyes that is just focusing on number 10 and the offensive scheme. I think it's really going to be huge for this team moving forward.
I like the move a lot. I know he was in camp last year as a consultant and then ended up leaving. I'm kind of surprised that this is now breaking news, because this was rumored or whispered to be happening ever since he left that Atlanta, I believe it was the AF team. He was either the head coach or something. He was in their front office, and he left abruptly. And then the rumors and whispers were that he was going to get a job with the Bears. So yeah, I totally forgot that it wasn't made official until it became official yesterday. But yeah, I love the move. Again, it's another eye, another set of eyes that could help assist Nagy and not only putting in the game plan, but also maybe on game days as well. But another thing, and a question, one thing I thought of, and a question to you guys, Mark Helfrich got some, head coaching, interviews, I think last year for college openings. Could this be Nagy setting up the tables in case Helfrich, after another, big year, if the offense takes its next step, an improvement that we expected to take, could he be setting the table if Helfrich leaves, Chili just takes over as offensive coordinator? I kind of thought of that. I'm not sure what you guys think of that.
Possibility of that, of course. This league is now in a stage of trying to find the next Matt Nagy, the next Sean McVay, and so Mark Helfrich could be viewed upon by people as that person, particularly if this Bears offense takes off and has a good season. Everybody's trying to, it's like hitting the lotto when you hire a head coach. And so we've gone through a stage of hiring proven but failed NFL head coaches, and now rolling the dice and taking chances on guys that you've hardly heard of. So Helfrich is certainly going to be a candidate, I think, for some teams. They've got him written on their board, and they're going to be taking a close eye on him all season long.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he got some love from Colorado, right? Yep. I think that was one of the teams that was, looking at him. And, this is something that is such a refreshing change for the Chicago Bears is you'd lose a guy and you wouldn't have the next guy in-house.
Right.
You're always going out to get a fucking Mike Tice or a Mike Martz or, you know what I mean? And I think that the Bears are set up that maybe it would be Brad Childress who knows, it very well could happen. Maybe there's another younger guy on the staff. I don't know. They seem to be awfully high on Dave Ragone. That's another step after quarterback coach to bring a guy up. He's obviously got a fantastic rapport with Mitch because they talked to Mitch about specifically bringing Ragone back with the coaching change. But no, it's a great point, and the continuity part of it is huge and something that can't be undersold. So no, I think it's a great point.
All right, guys, it is now time for us to take on this huge challenge that we have before us, commenting on as many of these 22 undrafted free agents that the Chicago Bears have signed. Forgive us if we miss a name or two or three. Forgive us if we don't have much to say about a name or two or three. It's hard to get information on some of these guys.
Yeah.
But somebody's been doing their homework on them or they wouldn't be in camp. I'll tell you one thing. Kudos again to the Chicago Bears scouting department. Kudos again to the Chicago Bears organization. Everybody is talking about the quality of prospects that they have signed under an undrafted free agent. Some of it, though, had to do with the circumstances. I mean, the Bears had a lot of roster spots to fill for their 90-man roster, so there were a lot of needs. And, in some cases, like, for instance, at the edge rusher position, players were saying, yeah, I'm definitely going there because they don't have a lot of depth there. And yes, they have enough depth to start the season, but a guy goes down, you want somebody for the practice squad. So there were plenty of players who were looking at it from that perspective. What I want to do to start this exercise is start at the wide receiver position because one of the names that's been talked about the most is Emmanuel Hall, the wide receiver from Missouri who was ranked by Gil Brandt of NFL.com as the #1 undrafted receiver. So the Bears went out and get him. In his 4 seasons at Missouri, he had 97 receptions for over 2,000 yards and 16 touchdowns. Danny, let me begin with you. And I know both of you guys have been doing a lot of work on Hall, so let's delve into him. Danny, why don't you begin?
Yeah, the first thing that strikes you about Hall, obviously, is his size and his speed. Like you said, 6'2", 201 pounds. He's got over 33-inch arms, so he's got that big catch radius. Ran a blazing 4.3940 at the combine. Has a 43.5 vertical, so he's got that lower body explosion. 2-year starter, former track star in high school, so he's got that. He's a natural athlete. 37 receptions, 828 yards this past season with 6 touchdowns. Again, his combination of size and speed, you just can't teach. You just can't coach this stuff. So, putting him out there right away, the defense, it's going to be on alert. The defensive coordinator, the opposing team defensive coordinator is going to be like, all right, where's this guy lined up? He's quick off the line of scrimmage. He's got that burst. He'll get into his routes immediately. He's got those long strides. So if a corner gives him cushion, he eats that cushion up quickly. He can sink his hips and create separation at the top of his routes, giving that quarterback some room to get that ball in there in those tight windows. And again, he can stretch the defense. He's a guy who can take that top off of defense. A guy that currently really just runs a couple of routes. He didn't run the full route tree at Missouri, really just the 9 route, the 7 route, and a couple of hitches and a couple of out routes. But what he does well. If you're a corner and you're going to play press coverage on this guy and you're going to come up to a line of scrimmage, you better jam him and you better reroute him off his path, because if you don't touch him, he's going to blow right by you. So this is going to be something that a weapon that the Bears haven't had really, a man with this kind of speed and this type of size at the receiver position in a long, long time. Just kind of looking at some of his tapes, you see him at Missouri catch a slip screen or a bubble screen, make the first guy miss, and he's quickly upfield. Next thing you know, he's got like 10, 12 yards, an easy first down. Plays like that, you can envision Matt Nagy utilizing him in a similar fashion in this offense. So, we were talking prior to the draft, looking forward, looking at some of these contracts that are coming up. Guys at the receiver position we talked about, Taylor Gabriel, the guy who currently is the speedster, if you will, on this team. His contract could be, up, and his position on his staff, or I'm sorry, in this roster, could be in question coming not this year, possibly after next year. So, this is a kid you fit him in here. He's got the speed, he's got the size, he's got the hands to catch the ball. So I was shocked that he went undrafted. But if you go back and look at this draft, there's a ton of receivers, good receivers that went undrafted. So. But yeah, Emmanuel Hall, I think, was a huge reel for the Bears and Ryan Pace to get him in here as an undrafted free agent.
Shane, I know you're equally as excited.
Yeah, I am. I do have my questions. Don't get me wrong, but I'll just start it off with some positives. Like Danny said, explosive. When I watch this kid, Danny, I'm sure you've seen too, his release off the line of scrimmage is damn near flawless. And I said that's where with him being so fast, I mean, he makes up a lot of that just right off of his release, and then he's got that speed on top of it. I said there's a lot of times when you watch him, the defender looks like they're not even running because he's so blindingly fast. And, even a lot of guys like that, if they're just going to run straight, be super fast, but he's got a lot of agility in the open field that I was really, really surprised by too. One thing that really, really bothers me, and you cannot make a living this way in the NFL, is I don't know if you charted it, Danny, or wrote it down. He double catches fucking everything. That ball,
a lot of he had drops too. He has some drops as well. And I mean it's like they told him to run a post or run a 9 route or run a comeback, and that's pretty much it. But boy, he double catches the ball a ton. And, I mean, you'll see him just wide open running down the field, and he's, it's rattling around in his hands, and then he secures it, and he's gone because he's got that speed. That is something along with the Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports said he's got undrafted free agent hamstrings. So that was something that pushed him down. And there, Aldo, you had brought up to us before, maybe not wanting to push through injuries and, kind of was taking him time. You don't know. You made another great point saying maybe he was, wanted to make it through healthy and didn't want to, lose his shot at the NFL where he's going to be starting to make some money. But that is another thing, like I said, with these double catches, definitely something he can work on. I said, I almost got to wonder if the kid, if they're not going to look into like LASIK surgery or something like that to kind of see if there's a vision problem there, because he does it almost every single game with those double catches. And you know how it is. Everybody's bigger, faster, stronger in the league. And you bobble one, that ball's going to get poked away real fast.
Real fast.
Yeah, the one thing I put down here is had a lot of drops and double catches in terms of his negatives. The other thing is, to me right now, he's just a one-trick pony. He's just a guy that can go deep and maybe run a out route. I mean, he wants no part of the middle of the field, from what I've seen on tape. His play strength is adequate right now. He in terms of, he's not a go up and get it kind of guy, right? So he's a guy that, he'll run to the ball, he'll run underneath the ball. He's not a guy that's going to go up and fight and get that catch through contact and get those 50-50 jump balls. I don't see him being that kind of guy. And the other thing was, the major thing was, like you said, injury concern. He's had hamstring and groin injury for the last couple of seasons, and it's really hampered him in terms of, completing a full season. So, there are definitely some concerns, and you can see why he went undrafted. But that speed and that quickness and the ability to be a playmaker, get the ball in his hands, and just have him do his thing, it really is enticing.
Yeah, it is. It's special. And you just don't see it.
He was on the Saturday edition of Good Morning Football, the day of day 3 of the draft, and the gang there was surprised that he wasn't even drafted somewhere in round 3. And so he was asked about that. He was clearly disappointed, but this is what he said.
At the end of the day, my film's my film. If you watch my film, I have elite speed. That's one thing I do. We attack deep. So if I have a quarterback that can throw real deep, I think we're going to work in comparison and contrast really, really well. And so, that's one of the things. My film's my film. I'm a freak athlete. Yesterday.
Yes.
Gotta love the confidence, man. I love it.
Yesterday, I was really hoping to get drafted, but for those teams that pass up on me, I really have something coming. So
okay, so Randy Moss action, you gonna make them pay.
Love that.
Make them pay, man. For real.
I also want to highlight on day 3 of the draft, Emmanuel, your mental toughness, because you, in the middle of your last season at Mizzou, you lost your father in the middle of the season, and you somehow maintained some level of positivity that you were able to come back to the team and lead Missouri in receiving.
Yeah.
What did that take?
It took a lot of faith. It took a lot of faith. Me and my dad, we were really close. And, he was one of my biggest supporters. He came to all my games for the most part throughout college. He came. There was a snippet of time he didn't come to my games. He came to Purdue, and then he ended up passing away right after that game. It was really tough for me. My roommate, my close friends really helped me out a lot. But at the end of the day, really just faith and, knowing my goals really helped out. And, I came back Florida game. And at that point, I knew, I was like, I want to play in the NFL. And like anybody, you're going to have issues in your life. You're going to have problems in your life. And, life doesn't stop. I couldn't sit there and cry and feel bad for myself because at the end of the day, I have family to, take care of. I have people that supported me, and I have goals. And my goal is to make the NFL. And now I'm here on the stage. So
making him proud.
All right, I included that last part about his father because that's sometimes a lot of times that coaches and scouts and journalists don't talk about those things often enough, is what is impacting these players off the field. In some cases you want to protect their privacy, but in some cases, if it's public, we should know because that can be as bothersome as a hamstring injury. And I know you, Danny, and you, Shayne, you guys are very close with your dads. So I know you can empathize with a player like that who talks about what the impact of losing his dad during a season had on his play and his attitude and so forth. I listened to that interview, and I'm pulling for this kid. I hope that whatever is going on in his life, he gets it together because he just sounds like a great young man.
Yeah, totally agree. And, you tend to forget about real life. You think that this is, college football or the NFL is, 24/7, 365 in a lot of our lives. But there's also, these guys leave the facility, they have their parents or their wives, girlfriends, their children, and you lose a central figure in your life like that. It does affect you no matter what. It's something that you think about on the football field, and that's where you want to have a clear mind when you're going to, working at your craft. So it is a great point because I don't even want to say these guys are human. These are kids. These are college kids, and that's even a bigger part of it right there. So, yeah, I'm absolutely pulling for this kid. I think immediately when everybody saw that the Bears signed him, I was part of it. You're pushing people off of the roster for this kid, and we're not there. Right. Hall's got a long, long way to go, and who knows if he pulls up and pops a hammy in training camp. This is the type of kid that you want to work with all year long and all off season. That's a IR type player that you can stash on your roster and hopefully work with through the offseason and bring back for 2020, because who knows what's going to happen. But the attributes are there. Like Danny said, he's a big 6'2", 201. With that speed, the Bears, I can't tell you the last time that they had a guy built like that. I mean, Bernard Berrien. I don't know, was he quite that big? I don't even think he was quite as fast overall either. But they just didn't have a guy like that. And with him making it to UDFA and coming to Chicago, I think it's a big deal. But I'm absolutely pulling for this kid 100%.
Okay, another wide receiver is Spencer Schnell from Illinois State. We have not been able to do a lot of work on him. I do have a little bit of information to share. He was an All-Missouri Valley Football Conference honored player as a senior, catching 65 passes for 872 yards and 9 touchdowns. He finished his Redbird career, Illinois State Redbirds career 5th on their all-time receptions list with 175. He compiled over 2,000 career receiving yards. I'm not sure who's ahead of him, but I bet you Cameron Meredith is a Mike North. Another Mike North favorite. So he's definitely a guy to keep an eye on at camp. If he makes it to Bourbonnais, it's somebody that I'll be looking at, given that he's from Illinois State. My daughter went there, so we're wishing him luck. Let's move on now to Thomas Ives, the wide receiver from Colgate.
Bellissimo that did some work on Thomas Ives. I mean, I've just seen some highlights where he goes up and makes a one-handed catch in traffic. Yes. But another big body guy.
He's like 6'5", right?
Yeah, 6'5". Another guy I was trying to get, other than highlights, I was trying to get some actual game footage on him, and I was unsuccessful. But I know Bellissimo likes him. But yeah, I saw the highlights of him going up and, like I said, making acrobatic catches in traffic, which is pretty impressive, especially for a guy who's 6'5". But the only thing is, with all these receivers, Shayne and all those, because I have a hard time seeing any of these guys making the roster. I mean, because right now we already, Pace said that they can carry 6. So we got our 6 with Robin. If we all go Robinson, Gabriel, Miller, Cordell Patterson, Javon Williams, and Riley Ridley. That's 6 right there. I don't see how these guys are going to be making the roster. But like we talked about earlier, Shayne,
you got to have camp bodies, Danny. You know that.
No, I understand, but we're talking about earlier with Shayne, where these guys impress during a preseason. Maybe you can flip them for a conditional draft pick or something like that as well.
True. I think, first of all, you got to look at it from the standpoint is you have to have quality competition in camp. That's going to improve the play of even your starters. They're going to look at a guy like Thomas Ives making these one-handed catches over the middle, and Taylor Gabriel is going to say, God damn it, I better go over the middle on a few plays to remind my coaches I can still do that. Some info on Thomas Ives. He had 53 receptions for 865 yards and 9 touchdowns in 40 games over 4 seasons. In 7 contests last year as a senior, he caught 15 passes for 263 yards and 1 touchdown. He had some injury issues last year. Let's listen to his Colgate coach, Dan Hunt, talk about him signing with the Chicago Bears.
He hit that 40 time, and he ran a sub 4.5, and he was in contact with Chicago quite a bit leading up to the draft. Chicago didn't have a lot of draft picks, so we knew he wasn't going to hear his name called by the Bears, but we felt pretty confident that right after the draft that he was going to be a signed kid, not a rookie minicamp tryout. Like, he signed a contract, which is a little bit different, So they obviously really like him. I think he's got a real chance because he's a competitive kid who's extremely coachable, and he'll do everything they ask him to do. So I'm real happy for him.
Yeah, obviously your college coach is probably going to say some really nice things about you, although that doesn't always happen. But by all looks is that this guy deserves a shot at the NFL, and who knows, if he continues to mature and play well and learn the playbook, there might be a practice squad spot for him that he could be tucked in there, particularly if a guy like Emmanuel Hall doesn't play up to expectations. Although I truly believe that Emmanuel Hall is going to come up with some mystery illness, and they're going to stash him away for 2020 season or beyond.
I agree, and one thing to keep in mind, although we've all fallen into this back with when Phil's boy there, the
Daniel Braverman,
little Braverman, yes, I couldn't remember his name. He's cut, he's going to the Patriots. You get so late in the game when you have these cut downs, and you can be a fast guy, but no matter who picks you up, if they pick you up then in final cuts, you have to make their active roster. It's not like they're grabbing you to put through onto the practice squad. So I would be very, very surprised. I totally agree with you. I think somebody like Emmanuel Hall, if he shows some flashes, he's going to be like, you got a little twinge in your hamstring there. Maybe, we'll shut you down and see where this goes. I know people don't like to think that happens, but it does. So, he's definitely a kid that you want to spend as much time with as possible.
Okay, let's talk about some other wide receivers. First, Joe Walker. I know you guys have not had a chance to look at any of his tape, and so just a little bit of information from him. He was brought to Delaware as a quarterback and was converted from quarterback to defensive back and then to wide receiver. And at his pro day, he did workouts at both defensive back and wide receiver and impressed in both of those positions. This from EaglesWire.com. Following his workout, Walker spoke with at least 5 NFL teams in the defensive back drills. Walker was very impressive, appearing fluid out of his back pedal and displaying low hips and inherent ball skills. At wide receiver, he looked tremendously explosive in and out of his breaks, demonstrated his ability to stop on a dime and failed to record a single drop. He looked like someone who had played the position his whole life. So good news there. We'll be taking a look at him. Of course, the Bears have to draft somebody out of Delaware, given the Nagy connection.
Yeah.
And then there's the kid from Utah State. I can't even attempt to pronounce his first name. His last name is
Ron Quavion.
Oh, look at this guy. Yeah. Been hanging out in the hood, huh?
Yeah, I saw an interview and him and our tight end, their UDFA tight end, Dax Raymond, were talking because they're college teammates. And
take a look at that.
Raymond was referring to him, so that's how I got the phonics on the name, I guess you could say.
Yeah, he's another big body receiver, 6'3" and a quarter, 216 pounds. Another guy that's going to win through the catch point. He's not going to blow by anybody. He's not going to create much separation. The only reason I've seen him is because I was studying Dax Raymond's tape, and he kind of flashed as well. But yeah, just a big body receiver, a guy this is the guy that can go up and get those, jump ball situations, so he can catch through.
He reminds you a little bit of Wims on some of the plays, but he's definitely not a guy like Emmanuel Hall that's going to blow by you. He's going to win with some of his size, and he's going to post you up a little bit too.
Right.
I've got only one running back on my list, Chris James of Wisconsin, invited to camp. I know you guys have not been able to see any of his tape, and there's a reason for that. There isn't much. He finished his time at Wisconsin gaining 341 yards on 74 carries with a touchdown. Last season, he just ran the ball 23 times for 108 yards in 9 games, so unfortunately, we don't have much on him.
This is the part where you do a 5-minute interview with Lauren Cox, and he'll tell you everything about him.
Exactly. Lauren, a graduate of Wisconsin. All right, let's move down to the tight end position. We've got a lot to talk about regarding our man Dax Raymond. And I want to begin first with our talk about Dax Raymond is when we were down at the Senior Bowl, he was asked about what exactly was he doing down in Russia on his mission, and this was his response.
You basically go around preaching the gospel, asking people if they believe in God. I don't know.
Door? Is it? Like door to door? You're not
door to door, outside, bus stops, anywhere. And I don't know about you, but I don't know many 18 to 20-year-olds that would like to do that for 2 years, especially in Russia. But I loved it. I really think it's what made me who I am.
And that's part of what this young man is all about. He's about his faith. He's about commitment, and so he's got all of those attributes that you want in a player. But right now, what we want to know more about is what he's done on the football field. Danny, what do you got?
Yeah, actually, that was one of the reasons why he came out. Because he's a junior, he came out early. And he still had a year of eligibility left, but because he was 24 years old, he didn't want to be that far behind and be a 25-year-old rookie. So that's one of the reasons. One of the big factors he said that kind of played with his decision to come out early. But yeah, touching on his ability on the football field, as you mentioned, although we went down there at Senior Bowl and this kid kept flashing, right? He kept making plays after plays, tough catches down the seam. What you like about him is he's tall frame. He's an easy mover with good foot quickness. He's 6'5", 255 pounds. He's got almost 33-inch arms, so he gives the quarterback that big target, that big catch radius that can roam around the middle of the field. He's got decent speed. He's at 4.73, I believe, at the combine. He might play quicker than that. He's got the ability to stretch that seam, to give you a deep threat down the middle of the field. He's a good second-level run blocker. He's not great, but he's tenacious. He looks for work. He'll keep his legs churning. He'll lock in and he'll sustain his blocks, and he'll look to finish. He's got natural soft hands, like I mentioned, just big hands. He's good, in terms of yak, with yards after contact. He catches, he turns upfield quickly, which you like about him. He's a solid mental processor. He finds that second level assignment quickly. He makes himself available downfield when he sees his quarterback scrambling. A lot of guys, if you notice, if you watch their tape, they see their quarterback scrambling, they just kind of stop. All right, he's going away. The play flow is going away from me. Well, no, with Dax, you watch him, and he'll start flowing towards the same side of the field that the quarterback is rolling or releasing to. So I like that about him. He looks to make himself available for his quarterback. And he's versatile. He can line up, in the slot. He can line up as a H-back, and he's not known, and he's been characterized as a non-blocker, as a move tight end, and that is predominantly what he's going to be. But the one thing I like about Dax is you line up in line, and he'll give you an effort. He's not going to just be like, all right, I'm just going to do whatever I have to do minimum just to get out of here and not get hurt or not get, my quarterback killed. He will actually give you an effort. He'll lock out. He'll try and, steer and move the defender out of the way. I think with more coaching in terms of improving his technique, getting stronger, adding that natural play strength, I think he has a chance to become, maybe he won't be great in terms of inline blocker, but a serviceable inline blocker. And when you add that to his ability to make plays down the field as a pass catcher, and as an undrafted free agent, you guys know, if they would have used one of the 6-round picks or one of those 7-round picks on him, I would be just as happy. But to be able to get him as an undrafted free agent, right there. And I think correct me if I'm wrong, Shane, he got the largest signing bonus of all these kids, right?
Yeah, it was up in the $35,000 range. So that tells you two things. It tells you that the Chicago Bears really wanted him, and it tells you that other teams were heavily involved to bring him in.
Exactly.
But one thing here on Dax Raymond, and I know this is probably jumping the gun a little bit, and I know Greg Gabriel, he touched on it too. This kid is going to make the roster. I really, really believe that. It's just, Danny, you talk about, the yards after catch. That's exactly what Nagy wants. This kid is so good at sitting down in the soft spot and then securing the ball and then going. And he's got, for as big as he is, his agility is very impressive, and that's what Matt Nagy wants. You got to be able to sit down, catch the ball, and then go. You see that so often. You don't see a lot of that in college football, but in the modern NFL, that's what it's all about. That's why they bring in a guy like Trey Burton. That's why they go out and focus on a guy like Dax Raymond. And that's why you see, Sternberger was another guy, and the kid that went to Buffalo from Ole Miss, I'm blanking on his name.
Oh, Dawson Knox.
All of these guys, I remember when the Bears drafted Greg Olsen, they're like, he's not going to give you any effort at all. And, if you put him in line and have him block, well, these guys can learn to do that. Right. It's not Dax Raymond is not brought here for that. He's brought here for his ability to get yards down the field and to make your quarterback's life easier. And I'm telling you that I really believe Greg Gabriel's right. I think this kid is going to stick on this roster. I truly believe that.
Yeah, me too. Unless there's something catastrophic happens, God forbid, an injury, or he just goes out there and just totally loses focus and can't catch anything. I mean, he's on this roster, in my opinion, as well. The one thing you bring up a great example there with Greg Olsen, Shane. He was a guy that, like you said, came out of college and said, "Oh, this guy can't block." Well, the one thing I like to see in these tight ends that are supposedly can't block is, will they give effort? Jay Sternberger, I loved his talents in terms of as a pass catcher, but he was a guy that to me really didn't give that much of effort in terms of becoming an inline blocker. Dax tries. Dax is a competitor. He's tough, and he'll go in there, and he might get muscled, he might get pushed around, but it's not for lack of effort or for lack of trying. The other thing I like about Dax is he's clutch. 19 of his 27 receptions went for first downs. That's huge. We're talking about a guy that's going to be able to help keep the chains moving, keep the offense on the field. This is something that I think they have here with this kid.
He was asked about his age when we were at the Senior Bowl, and this is how he responded to what scouts and NFL team personnel were saying about his age.
I've definitely heard both, where, it'd be nice if you were 22 or 21, but then on the other side, yeah, I'm more mature, and they don't need to worry about me on a weekend, doing something stupid, or they can rely on me as a mature adult.
Dax will be 25 years old at the end of November of this year, so he's got some years on him. And I know, Shayne, that's always been a topic that's been on your mind when you look at draft prospects. But I think in some cases it really doesn't matter, right?
Doesn't matter to Ryan Pace.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It doesn't. It really doesn't. Kevin White, Anthony Miller, Eddie Jackson, Leonard Floyd, Hronis Grasu, Cody Whitehair. All of those guys are aged rookies. And, you want the guy that's going to come in, like Eddie Goldman is 24 years old right now and has already signed his extension. Yeah, you want guys like that.
Sure.
But not all of them are going to be like that. And sure, it does play a factor. Who was Margus Hunt, the guy that he was like 27 years old or something like that. And remember Chris Wenke, these guys were like super old.
Right.
And, but if they can think here that we're talking about with Dax Raymond right now, he's potentially your third or fourth string tight end. So he's not, you're not asking him to come in and take over for Trey Burton right now. Down the line, yeah, he very well could be with the way that the money game goes and all that. Who knows? Right. But, the age thing, sometimes it can bother you, and it does a lot of times push good players down the board.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Regarding his
typically that
go ahead, Danny.
I'm sorry. No, typically that age thing comes into effect when you talk about running backs, because typically 30 is that year for running backs. Once they get over 30, they tend to lose something, whether it's a step, whether it's some quickness. So if you get a 24 or 25-year-old running back, basically getting him for one contract, right? So that's where age I've seen before, like it come into effect in terms of really knocking someone's draft stock down. But a 24-year-old kid, in terms of here of Raymond, who will be 25 during the season, I don't think it should be that big of a difference.
Yeah. Regarding his stats, he only had 3 touchdown catches and a total of 72 catches in his collegiate career. He was asked about that down at the Senior Bowl. This is what he said.
Yeah, of course I would like to get the ball more just to show that I can do it. But I feel like I showed enough to the NFL teams that I have the ability to play at a high level, and if they want to throw me the ball a lot, I'm there to catch the ball a lot.
Right. You played in the slot, H-back, inline tight end, right? You did all of that a little bit. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Caught some screens, right?
So just showing that I'm versatile and I can do everything that a team would want me to do as a tight end. I wish I had more opportunities too in college. I felt as the years went on, I learned a lot, learned more about technique, and I'm progressing as a blocker.
What was funny about that interview is the guy that you just heard talking there he's a sports writer up in Detroit, and I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. But nonetheless, he clearly had done lots of homework on Dax Raymond. He knew a lot about his tendencies, his stats, and so forth. And when Dax was talking about his Mormonism and his mission, the writer said, well, that the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions is a Mormon, and all of a sudden they start talking, about that. Oh, I would love to meet him and so forth. So clearly that Detroit sports writer may have had his eye on Dax Raymond for the Detroit Lions, but it's the Bears that nail him.
Well, the Lions drafted 2 tight ends.
That's right. They did. They did.
Yep.
Oh, my gosh. They really do love their tight ends, but maybe they'll get it right this time. We'll see.
Yeah, they've drafted what? They've drafted 3 tight ends in the top 20 over the last 11 years.
Jeez.
Top 15 or top 20? Was it?
Well, the Pettigrew was 19, and then the other 2 were in the top 10.
Yeah,
Ebron and Hawkinson. Crazy.
All right, let's talk about Mr. Ellis Richardson from Georgia Southern. I think there's been some talk about him. I reached out to him, and he's kind of promised us an interview, but he wants to do some things in camp first before he talks. Have you guys heard anything at all about Ellis?
I haven't.
What the fuck you guys been doing? Hold on a second. Let me call him up here. I'll edit this together so we don't look like idiots.
Ellis Richardson, redshirt senior, tight end. I'm originally from Georgia, Douglas County. Growing up, I think everybody wants to play in the NFL, and that's been my goal since I first started playing. And I've just stuck with it, even though it's been a long journey. I've just always stuck with it. I started out playing quarterback around 6th grade because nobody else could throw the ball. And I just stuck with it all the way until I got here. Leaving Alabama State, it was between South Carolina or a school in state so I could pay for like tuition and things like that because I knew I had to walk on at least the first year to earn a scholarship. And Georgia Southern was the first place I stopped. I didn't know who the head coach was. I just knew they were winning and triple ops and things like that. And when I got here, the tradition sold me. Just being down here where everybody takes pride in the football program and things like that, it just makes it that much more special.
All right, Elliot Richardson is 6'3", 240 pounds. He caught 10 passes this past year for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns. Clearly a prospect type of player, but the Bears love the size and the athletic traits that he's shown. So we hope Ellis Richardson, along with Ian Bunting, the tight end from California, show some stuff at camp and make it really tough for all of the existing tight ends and really bring out the best in Dax Raymond, who we're all kind of pulling for here.
Yeah, these guys, the Bears go heavy at tight end, and I think that they'll probably go 4 on the active roster, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have 1 or 2 of them on the expanded practice squad.
Absolutely. All right, we'll turn our attention now to offensive linemen, and I guess out of all the guys that we're bringing in here on undrafted free agent status-wise, is the guy that's getting the most talk is Alex Bars from Notre Dame, who played right tackle there. Shayne, what do you think about Mr. Bars?
Bear the fuck down, Aldo.
That is right. He tweeted that
Did you see
out.
it? He had to remove it?
Yeah.
That's right. He removed it about 10 minutes later, but I saw it as soon as it came out. Good for Alex Bars. He's certainly got a great attitude. And I've got some audio of Bars talking about Harry Heaston, but let's get your appraisal of him first. Shayne, anything you want to share before I turn to Danny?
Well, the big thing with him is, coming back from the injury, and we talk about these guys. We touched on it with Emmanuel Hall. Is if you can slide these guys through. You saw the Bears bring in Tom Compton, and they have Bradley Sowell, a guy that they can keep on this roster for another year. And Alex Bars, I believe it was a torn ACL, correct?
It was actually ACL and MCL tear, and it was in September. Yeah, September. So that generally is year plus to recover. So
yeah, and you're talking about a big man too.
Right.
It's not, you're not talking about a wide receiver that's 200 pounds. He's around 310, 315. But he's played left guard, right tackle, and that what do the Bears want on their offensive line? They want versatility. These guys, you see that with Tom Compton. You see that with Bradley Sowell. So this is a kid with me, I think, that you're going to see come in depending on how his rehab is going. And I think he's going to be one of these IR candidates. And, a guy that Harry Heaston, captain at Notre Dame, things like that can't be undersold. You want to bring in these guys. I believe, Danny, the center was also the captain too, correct?
Yes, sir. Yep, both of these guys are captains.
Yep. And I'm not a big offensive line guy. I know you guys I've said that to you guys a ton, but like I said, versatility plus on this guy, and I think that counts for a whole lot. And if you're going to have a guy like Harry Hiestand that's going out of his way to bring you in, and I mean, I think that this guy was a draftable asset had he been healthy. So it's just a guy that I think I'm geared more towards 2020 for him in Chicago than this season so much.
Yeah, Shayne stole my thunder there. Basically, what this kid is, and this kid's a prime candidate to be probably on a PUP list, probably, because you think about it, if he's not ready to play, how physically ready will he be to compete in training camp for a roster spot? So keep an eye on that one. But like you said, Shayne, versatility. This kid started 2 games at left guard, 12 at right tackle, 13 at right guard. Harry Hiestand knows him. He's got the good size. He's 6'6", 312. He's versatile. We just talked about. Shows the ability to anchor and stand his ground versus bull rush. So he's got the length. He's got the ability to plant his feet and arch his back and be able to thwart a bull rush towards him. In terms of he's got a solid punch. Going back to his pass protection, solid punch. He's able to stymie the initial thwart of a defensive lineman. Shows good awareness and instincts as a pass protector. Picks up the stunts and blitzes. Works well with his guard. So if in center, so if a defense is sending an extra defender, he's able to peel off his guy and pick up that extra defender. That's always key when you're studying these offensive linemen. Do they have that awareness, the alertness to be able to pick up the extra rusher so you don't get your quarterback killed? So stuff like that are positives for him. The knee injury obviously is a big concern, a major concern. Maybe it might be the reason why he went undrafted is my guess here, because like I said, we don't know his timetable, when he'll be available to actually participate in training camp and play. Some of his negatives that I wrote down here just watching his tape is, he's got adequate core strength. He can get stronger. There's times where he can get knocked back by a strong defensive lineman at the point of contact. Too much bending at the waist. I like guys that are not waist benders. Not enough knee bend in his game when he's pass blocking. And there's times where if he's waist bending or he's bending at his waist, he tends to lunge and reach at guys and then loses his balance and he falls down and the guy goes by him. So stuff like that, and I'm sure, like you said, Hiestand knows him. If he makes the team, he can be coached up and better. Actually, what's funny, Aldo, is who he reminded me of when I first put a tape on? A guy that was on the Bears last year.
Who's that?
Brian Witzman.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But to Witzman's credit, he got better as the season went along.
Oh, absolutely.
So if this is someone similar, that kind of size, also in terms of being pushed back at the point of attack kind of thing, like Witzman was. But then as the season got on, whether it's coaching or whatnot, he got better. Mm-hmm. And I see something like that happening with Bars.
Yeah. Well,
one thing to keep in mind real quick too, Aldo, on that guy like this, if you're pushing a kid like this to 2020, is don't forget the current right guard in Chicago. Yes, he's healthy now, but he also restructured. Mm-hmm. And his deal, I think he signed through 2020.
Right.
But it's essentially it's a 1-year deal.
Right.
And Kyle Long, just I don't even like to say the words, but we gotta put it out there. Something happens,
mm-hmm.
and an injury creeps up. You want to have guys like this that are at least in the pipeline,
right,
that can move in. And I mean, I think he's gonna. You're projecting him more at a guard position, correct, Danny, in the NFL?
Yes, more so at guard. He could play some right tackle, but definitely not left tackle. So it's either right guard or right tackle, definitely on the right side.
Yeah, so that's just, this is, you have to have a little bit of vision to look down the line here a little bit. And I think, maybe this is something that Ryan Pace maybe feels like he potentially stole a kid, but you're just going to have to put him on the shelf for a year.
Bars was asked about Harry Hiestand at the Combine, and this is what he said, without knowing he'd be reunited with Hiestand as a pro.
He's a phenomenal coach. Like the amount of care he shows for his players is unrivaled.
Another reporter asked Bars about Hiestand's approach of showing old tape of offensive linemen to his young players, and this is what he said.
He's always looking back, and so we showed Olin Cruz tape when he was with the Bears. Just seeing those guys teach the technique and knowing the players that they are was something really special for us in that room.
Pretty cool. Mr. Bars is coming in here already with some Chicago Bears pedigree. Houston has shown him Olin Kreutz tape so he can learn the basics and so forth. So and when I hear Shimon's scouting report on Bars, I got to believe that this guy already has a foundation of great teaching and just needs to now kind of practice those skills, get the muscle memory going. And he's a very viable potential NFL starter for the Chicago Bears in the future, 2020, 2021. All right, let's move on. His teammate, Sam Mustipher from Notre Dame. In fact, Bars was asked at that press conference how disappointed Sam was that he didn't get invited to the combine, and Bars said that, yeah, he was not only disappointed, he was kind of angry about the whole thing because he felt like he deserved to be there. Tell me a little bit about the center from Notre Dame coming to the Chicago Bears.
Well, Mustipher, as we mentioned earlier, is also a team captain at Notre Dame, a 2-year starter, very durable. He made 38 straight starts. He's 6'2", 306 pounds, a little under 33-inch arms. 2018, he did not surrender a sack or a quarterback hit, and he yielded just 6 quarterback hurries in 889 snaps. And he was a finalist for the Remington Trophy, which goes to the nation's top center. When breaking down his tape, what I like about him and what you notice about him initially and right away is he competes and he plays hard. Man, this kid will finish. He will bury his blockers, and you guys know the guy buries his blockers. He's right up there on my list. I like the way he uses his hands. He gets them out quickly. He controls and leverages the shoulder pads of the defender. And once he gets them down, like I said again, he buries a guy. He's good working with his guard in terms of zone blocking, inside zone blocking, being able to seal off and create a crease for the running back. But again, when I look at these guys and I just kind of scout them for the Bears system, I'm looking for guys that are agile, guys that can move in space, guys that are light on their feet. And unfortunately for Sam, he's not. To me, he's really heavy-legged. There's times where I see him losing his balance, and he's on the floor more than I liked him, on the ground, I should say, more than I like for him to be. He's not quick or athletic to the second level, kind of lumbers, which kind of surprised me a little bit. And he can't consistently hold at the point of attack, especially against bigger, stronger defensive linemen. So this might be just some guy who would come in and give him a shot in the dark and see what he does. But what he does have going for him is, again, the connection with Houston and the fact that he competes and he plays hard. And like I said, he's got that nasty streak to him where he'll bury guys.
Moving on to Tommy Doles from Northwestern. He played right guard for the Wildcats. The Wildcats, you were a Big Ten West title winner, and so he's got big game experience. I don't think we've watched a lot of tape on him, so we'll move on. Blake Blackmar, the offensive lineman from Baylor, who was a 3-year starter and who started at right guard each of the past 2 seasons. And he was named All Big 12 Honorable Mention in 2018, was selected to the conference's first-team All-Academic Squad each of the last 3 years, and that is according to the Chicago Bears website. Danny is working on getting some tape of him. But Danny, I know that you've got some tape or have watched some tape on the next offensive lineman. The next offensive lineman on my list is Joe Lowry from Ohio.
Yes, sir. And this is a kid that I was watching his tape last night, and the more I watched, the more I liked of him. To be honest with you, I heard the name in terms of offensive lineman potential prospects, but I never really dug into his tape. So after I saw the Bears I'd gotten him, I went ahead and pulled up some of his tape, and good size, 6'6", 300 pounds, has a little over 32-inch arms with this almost 79-inch wingspan. Ran a 5'2", 240 and a 1.84 10-yard split, which for me, offensive lineman, that 10-yard split is more important than their 40 time. So all Ohio high school player, all Mid-American first team in 2018, 3-year starter, another team captain, and another guy that's versatile. This guy has started games at left tackle and left guard. So funny enough, this guy grew up a Browns fan, and his idol was Joe Thomas of the Cleveland Browns. So that's a pretty good idol to have. So Anyway, I put this kid's tape on, and I'm starting to watch him. And right away, you notice the size. You notice he's got some bend in his knees, and he's got the quick feet. He's playing left tackle. So the one thing I know right away I put on him is he moves well in space. He's just smooth and he's fluid. He can create movement at the point of attack. He uncoils his hips and he generates power through his lower body, which you like to see. He sets and shuffles well in pass pro, keeps his shoulders square to the pass rusher. When he locks out his arms, he can mirror and keep himself in between the defender and the quarterback. He works well as a run blocker in either the zone or a gap blocking scheme. When you talk about zone, I like the way he works with his guard. He's hip to hip, and they both kind of work in tandem to clear out and seal off the edge and create a running lane for the running backs. And in terms of backside pursuit, when you talk about inside zone blocking, he can seal off that, he can flip his hips. He can seal off backside pursuit. When you go to the gap blocking scheme, he can quickly get out of his stance and he can pull around the edge to seal off and create a lane for a running back, which, for a left tackle nowadays, and especially in college, it's not that easy to do. And it's kind of rare, to be honest with you, to see guys that agile, that quick, a left tackle. And I love the way how he first of all, he quickly gets out of his stance and into the second level, and how he processes once he's into the second level. He will, identify his assignment quickly. He will go ahead and strike and steer his man, maintain his block. A lot of times with these college kids, you see them go out there and lunge and try and push and just trying to get in the way of the second level defenders. No, this guy gets out there, he gets on them, he holds, he steers them, moves them, and he finishes them. So he maintains his blocks, which really is something that I love seeing in college offensive linemen. So the one thing though, or a couple things that when you look at the negative side of him, is he's got below average length for a tackle. He's got 32-inch arms. Typically, the point there is 33 and a half and higher is what you prefer. So, and then there's times you see where his length or lack of length in his arms, where he allows the defender to get into his chest instead of locking out and keeping him off his chest plate. He can be a tad bit late versus speed on the outside. So you see some of his sets where he's kind of late and he'll be lunging, or he'll be kind of trying to push the defender past the quarterback, trying to ride the pass rusher, they call it. So you see that a little bit. So that's why I think I would try him at left tackle, just because he competes and he plays well on tape. But I think his true position is going to be inside at guard. So if you get a guy like this who plays well, who competes well, who's got the some good athleticism and the ability to maintain his blocks and create some movement at the point of contact, to put him inside a guard, at left guard, I think would be a nice pickup here for the Bears.
Okay, two more offensive linemen on my list. I know both of you guys have not had a chance to look at any tape on them, so here's what I found on the internet. Marquez Tucker, and this is according to the Chicago Bears website. He's an Arizona native who started his college career at Mesa Community College, was selected all Big Sky Conference in each of the 2 seasons at Southern Utah when he moved there, and he started 23 games there. He moved from left tackle to left guard for the final 2 games of his senior season, so he's got lots of experience working on the left side of the line. And then there is the young guy from Richmond. His name is John Yarborough, and here's what I know about him. He is 6'5", 270 pounds, and he was quoted in a website called the Collegian saying, this is what he said: "Playing in the NFL was always my dream coming up. I am a fanatic when it comes to the Chicago Bears. It is something that has always been in the back of my head playing for them." So he's got a chance to make his dream come true. Good luck to you, John Yarborough, and you're welcome to come on Bears Barroom and talk to us about the Chicago Bears. All right, it is time now to turn our attention to the defense. I wanted to start on the D with this kid, Jonathan Harris from Lindenwood. I posted some video up on him at Bears Barroom on Twitter, and boy, oh boy, was this guy a monster. The reason he intrigued me, first of all, I read Dane Brugler's scouting report on him, and basically what he said was overall Harris was unblockable at the Division II level, and that's exactly what I saw on his highlight reel. Especially when his battery was charged. But he needs to show better attention to the basic fundamentals. And so that's obviously, you can expect that from most guys that come out of Division II. There's not the quality coaching there is not nearly as good as some of the top programs in college. But this guy was very impressive with the numbers, too. 22 overall sacks over his 4 years. First team all MIAA and team captain the last 2 years. He's definitely a guy to keep an eye on. Jonathan Harris of Lindenwood. Have you guys heard anything at all about him?
Okay. I have not, but when you posted that tape out on Twitter and I saw him, and the first name that popped in my head, and you guys probably remember this, is Eric Swan. Remember him from the Cardinals way back?
Yes.
The type of size, power, and speed.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that was like, when I saw that tape, I was like, whoa. I know, again, it's highlights, and that's typically how highlights look.
Exactly.
But that was pretty damn impressive. So, I mean, imagine, I'm thinking right away, 5 technique, right? I mean, I don't think he's big enough to be a backup nose, but, someone in a 5 technique, but you can utilize that quickness, that size, that speed. So we'll see how he does. But, yeah, I'm definitely intrigued with this kid.
Yeah, and I guess the Bears were very intrigued with Lawrence Marshall from Michigan. I didn't collect that much information about him. I thought he's only played sparingly, but apparently he's got the measurables, and there's something about the kid that they like, and which is why he is in camp. All right, the edge rusher most people are talking about from this undrafted free agent lot is the Canadian kid from Laval University, and his name is Marsaw. Did I get that right, guys? Matthew.
Yeah, I think Matthew Betts. Yeah.
Matthew Betts. And before we begin talking about him, I got an interview here from our man, the czar of the playbook, Emery Hunt. He was down at the East-West Shrine game. He talked with Betts, and here's a portion of it.
What do you think you bring to the table that makes you so attractive to both CFL and NFL scouts?
Well, I just like to show off what I can do well. Obviously, effort is something I take great pride in. Like you said, coming off the ball, pass rushing, I think these are the good aspects of my game, and that's just what I want to show off this week at practice.
And you're a quick learner, because I know playing a yard off the ball can be a bit of an adjustment as you come down here in the States. What has that adjustment been for you, and how quickly have you been able to make that transition?
Well, actually, in high school in Quebec, we actually play without the yard, so I've already played without the yard, actually most of my life, but it's been a little adjustment, but I think it's easier for the D-line to get a bit closer to the football, so it is an adjustment, but I think it favors also my takeoff and just to get strides rushing the passer, so it's not that big of a deal.
For those that may not know about the youth sports, Laval is like the Alabama, I call it, of the Canadian college football ranks. How beneficial has playing at Laval been to your development as a prospect?
Oh, listen, I think it means everything to my development. I think the coaching staff there is second to none in Canada. I'd even say even in the States. With Coach Glenn Constantine as our head coach and my D-line coach, I think I'm ready for whatever comes up my way, either it's the NFL or the CFL.
Shayne, I think you're developing a man crush on him, right?
You guys didn't agree with me there when I brought up Chase Winovich, my love for that guy, and I guess you can watch him go to New England and put up that double-digit sacks as a rookie, but
but he's in a perfect system in New England.
He really is.
Yeah, I think he can play anywhere. I really do. I believe in players. I mean, not every player like that, but sometimes you just have to say fuck the traits and draft a good football player, and I think that's what Winovich is. Now, this guy has a little bit of that in him. His short area quickness, it like you said, Danny, it's hard because a lot of these guys, it's not like you're going out there and you're watching 3 or 4 games of this kid. It's just not available, to watch like that. So you're watching, you're putting together some game footage and, mixed in with some highlights and stuff like that. But I
don't know about you, Shayne, but I have the Laval channel here on my TV.
Yeah, you and me both. My Laval channel is all Canadian porn, but but I did. They were talking about him. He checked in at 6'2.5", 254 pounds. He ran the 40 at 4.70, 4.28 shuttle, 6.773 cone. Did a 9.99 broad, 29.5-inch vertical, and he did 23 reps of 225. And if you compared all of those numbers to everyone at the NFL Combine, Betts 40 would have ranked 4th overall, his shuttle 4th, his 3-cone would have been number 1,
wow,
and his broad jump would have been 6th, and the rest of the test results were outside of the top 15. But that 3-cone, Danny, when you're talking about that short area burst and quickness with these guys,
yep, that's important.
it's a huge deal. It really, really is. That's something that you like to see. And this kid, everything that I've seen with him, he's just, I've made the comment before how they play with their hair on fire, and he's got that no quit mentality. Is he got all of the athletic traits you want? No, he doesn't. But it's at some point you have to believe in the player. And I'm going to be very, very interested. I think that this kid, just because of his different back, I mean, hey, worst case scenario, he can go suit up for he sounds like he plays for the Blackhawks already.
Yeah,
when
right.
you listen to him talk. But I think that this kid is going to be a camp favorite. He's going to be going out there. He's going to go 110 miles an hour, and I think he's probably going to piss off maybe a few of the veterans, and I don't think he's going to back down. I think he's going to be, Winovich light with his intensity, and I love players like that.
Yeah, same here.
I agree. I mean, the same thing, Shayne, as when I put on his tape, and I saw some of his East-West Shrine practice tape, and you see, even in practice, he's got that tremendous motor, the nonstop competitive motor. He's active with his hands. He uses a rip move. He's got a swim move. He's got a swat. So he's got some hand technique. You see, he's been coached up a little bit in Canada. He's got a solid spin move for a guy that size. And you don't really think of quickness, but again, that 3-cone agility, result kind of tells you he's got some lateral speed, some lateral quickness, and he's got the spin move that he put on a couple of these tackles at the East-West Shrine, and they're like, whoa, where did this come from? And but again, I think he's more like a straight line player, kind of like, I think your comp for Winovich is a good comp here. He's got that straight line speed. He doesn't have much bend, in terms of bending the corner off the edge, but this guy's going to be converting from a 4-3 defensive end from where he was at Laval University to now probably an outside linebacker, 3-4 linebacker. So like I said, he's going to be a guy that we're going to, move it to outside linebacker, kind of see how he coaches them up and see how he develops. But like we were talking about earlier in the show, every one of these guys has something, whether it's a physical trait or character trait or something that intrigues you about them. And definitely this guy has that motor, that like we said, the hand use to be able to generate pressure off the edge. And this is going to be another guy that I'm going to be keeping my eye on, during training camp as well. And another thing was Arizona was heavy after him as well. And it was between the Bears and Arizona. Like we said earlier, maybe the Bears gave him a better opportunity in terms of competing for a roster spot. That's why he picked, the Bears over the Cardinals. But yeah, those two teams were neck and neck after him.
He is definitely going to be somebody to keep an eye on. He just seems like a grand, big personality too. I was just reading that he was expected to be the #1 overall draft pick in the Canadian Football League draft. I think, Shayne, you mentioned that when you were.
That's like this. It's either this week or next week, right?
It's this weekend, correct?
Yeah, is it? Yeah.
Yeah. But he wants to play in the NFL. That's his main goal, and so hopefully he performs well. I loved watching that little bit of video from a French-Canadian TV station where he was running the 3-cone drill, and his family was there when he was selected. Everybody's speaking French. It was pretty hilarious.
Bears to Chicago, and everybody starts going crazy.
It certainly looks like he's quite the personality too to fill in the Bears locker room alongside Akeem Hicks and some of the other guys in there.
The only thing is,
Chachi sent a tweet to Akeem Hicks, asking him if he could speak French. And Akeem Hicks, he's got such a great personality. So I think they're gonna have. I'm telling you that this kid at training camp, hopefully, I don't see any reason he doesn't make it through to camp unless he falls completely flat on his face in rookie minicamp. But this kid, I'm telling you, he's gonna turn some heads, and I think he's gonna end up being a bit of a training camp legend, / rock star, and really make a name for himself. I'm looking forward to it.
I just hope he incorporates himself well in Club Dub. Don't stick out and be. Don't be the outball in the corner, not dancing. Well,
I don't know. He seems like the kind of guy that might throw some steps. Even though they might look terrible. Pretty cool. All right, the next guy on my list is Dylan Carroll from Grand Valley State. I saw a little bit of a highlight reel on him, and of course it's a highlight reel. The guy seems, to play with a lot of heart and great abandon, but I really can't add more than that. I'm trusting that you guys probably going to get a chance to scout him, right?
No, I don't. I have not got anything on him.
Okay.
Me either.
Chuck Harris is another edge rusher who was brought in from Buffalo. And I'm looking at a story about him. He played, he comes from Detroit. He played 3 seasons of organized football before going to Buffalo. His freshman and sophomore seasons, he was a role player, rotating as a reserve defensive end in a combined 23 games. However, when Harris was given the chance to take over the starting role as a junior, Buffalo fans started to see his NFL potential. In 12 games, Harris piled up 73 tackles, 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a defensive touchdown, leading to a 3rd-team All-MAC honors. Harris's senior year was hampered by injury, missing 3 full games. However, he battled through the injuries and posted a career-high 6.5 sacks to go along with his 45 tackles in 11 games. So clearly, this guy, I'm sure the scouts saw his junior year, were impressed by him, were probably disappointed that he didn't play his senior year, but that kind of allowed him to kind of fall through the cracks, get undrafted, and fall to the Bears' lap, so we'll keep an eye on him. That ends my list of edge rushers. Let's move on to linebackers. I have only got one linebacker on my list of undrafted free agents. It's the kid from Western Illinois, Quinton Moon. Got a great name, but I don't know much more about him other than that. You guys have anything on Moon?
Hey, Aldo, right before we talk about him,
sure.
The last pass rusher that or the pass rusher from the University of Buffalo that we have on our team currently,
is?
He's working out pretty well.
Oh, yeah,
number 52.
That guy, Khalil Mack, yeah.
Yeah, I guess he's reached out to Chuck Harris and kind of taken him under his wing. So I said you like to see that, and not saying that there's any comp there, but this,
right.
There's a lot of upside there with that kid. Hasn't played a lot of football, and he's gotten better every year. Except for the injury. So keep your eye on him.
Yeah, I watched Chuck Harris, and I was I was hoping that Shane, you had a chance to look at him as well. But he's 6'4", 265, and with 33-inch arms, 33 and 1/8 inch arms. And so some of the positives I like about him is, he's good at setting the edge. He shuffles his feet, stays square to the line of scrimmage, and he's cognizant of his run assignments. Hustles, chases, down from backside pursuit in terms of run defense. He goes hash line to sideline, in terms of chasing, and he gives effort. So I like that about him. He's solid in terms of play strength at the point of contact. He can stack and shed and locate the ball quickly. He can convert speed to power as a bull rusher. However, when I look at him as a edge rusher, his get off to me is adequate.
Yeah, he's got to lose weight, I think, Danny.
Yeah, so that's the thing. They brought him in. Do you think they add weight and make him a 5 technique, or do they make him lose weight and make him an edge guy?
I don't know. I see him more as an edge. I mean, I don't think he's got to lose a ton of weight. I think you get him down there around that 255. That 8 to 10 pounds can make an enormous difference with a guy like that.
He ran a 4.740, so he's right in there in terms of numbers wise. Being fast and athletic and all that stuff. So in terms of run defense, he's pretty solid. And like we said, maybe it was the injuries, and that's why he was kind of looking like he was a little stiffer in the lower half and just didn't have that bend, that explosiveness off the edge. So maybe that's what it was. And again, we always talk about scouting and with context and knowing what's going on. So that could be an issue there as well. The injuries that he was dealing with.
Clifton Duck, the defensive back from Appalachian State, is going to be at camp. According to the Bears website, he started all 39 games in the last 3 seasons, recording 12 interceptions, 158 tackles, 8.5 tackles for a loss, 31 pass breakups, and 1 sack. I know that prior or in the middle of the season, Appalachian State defensive backs were playing very, very well, and he was asked by a reporter what lent to their success, and this is what Clifton Duck said.
It's probably our competition. It's probably our biggest thing that keeps us going. You know, day in and day out, me and Tay are competing against each other, like who can give up the less catches or who can get their hands on the ball or who can do this and who can do that. So I feel like that's been driving us like crazy this year. Starting in the spring, it's just been a whole nother attitude.
Yeah, he was referring to one of his teammates there, whose name I can't find in my notes here, but the competition between him and his teammate is what helped drive him to some success in his senior year, and that's great to see. That's the type of mentality you want to see out of your players that get into camp, they start playing, they start challenging, teammates start challenging one another, and that usually leads to better results. You guys want to share any thoughts on Clifton Duck, the defensive back from Appalachian State?
Yeah, I watched a couple of his games, and he was actually highly rated coming into the season in terms of a prospect for the NFL. We mentioned already, he's 5'9", 180 pounds, so he's more that slot corner. A 3-year starter, started and playing all 39 games. He was at college, a 3-time first-team All-Sun Belt selection. He's feisty, man. This kid will not back down from anybody, which you like seeing in a guy who's only 5'9". You know he's going to get picked on a lot, and he just doesn't back down. You like that in a cornerback. Throws his body around in terms of run support. He's got ball skills. He's had 12 career interceptions and 19 passes broken up. So the guy gets his hands on the ball. He's around the ball, and he gets his hands on it, which you like to see. He also has some experiences in terms of special teams. He's a punt returner. He's had 31 career returns for 324 yards, averaging a little over 10 yards a return with 1 touchdown. So the only thing that kind of worries me about him is the 3-cone test, and this is what I look at for slot guys, because you're going to be in the middle of the field, you're going to be defending a two-way go against shiftier, quicker receivers. I want to see those numbers. It wasn't horrible, but his 3-cone was 7.16. I like seeing those closer to 7 or actually below 7 if possible. And he ran a 4.67 40, which tells me he doesn't have that makeup speed that you look for in case he gets beaten off the line of scrimmage. So he's got some things that he intrigues you with. Like I said, he's got the experience. He's got the feistiness to be able to compete inside. And, we'll see how he does. But, yeah, I mean, this guy is someone who's played a lot and has played well in college. So it'll be interesting to see what he does in that little competition that's brewing there for that corner, that nickel slot corner position.
Shayne, how far away is Edinboro University from where you're at up in New York?
Edinboro? I couldn't even tell you.
Edinboro. Oh, actually, I take that back. That's in Erie, Pennsylvania. I got that mistaken somehow.
Well, that's going to be a little ways, Aldo, you asshole.
I strike again. Well, I was hoping that he was close to your neck of the woods. That way you could give us a scouting report. He being Zerrell Hendrick, the defensive back from Edinboro. But I'm looking at my notes here. I think Edinboro is in Erie, Pennsylvania. Nonetheless, I have a little bit of video here of Edinboro, a little audio of of Hendrick talking about coming to the Chicago Bears.
The last 4 years here have honestly made me grow as a person and a man. I mean, the ups and downs that we had in football, where we went from 0-11 our freshman year to the biggest turnaround in history to 9-2. It just made me grow as a person, a leader, as a man, and just as a well-rounded individual.
How impactful were the coaches in convincing you to stay at that defensive back position and then only to grow from there?
They were huge in that part. Whenever Coach Lustig came in the spring of my freshman year, he sat us all down. It's like, I don't care who you are, I don't care what position you played, or what you want to play. I'm going to tell you what to do. You're going to listen to me and do it, and we're going to excel at it. And if it wasn't for that, honestly, I don't think I would have been in Edinboro, and I don't think I would have been getting this shot right now.
Pretty cool. Sounds like a smart young man. We wish him luck. Zerrell Hendrick from nowhere near and in New York.
Good old days of Edinboro. I wouldn't trade it for anything, Aldo.
There's another kid at the corner position that's coming to camp. His name is Joshua Simmons. He's from Limestone University. Limestone University sounds like something from Bedrock, Fred Flintstone age and stuff. I don't have anything on Joshua, and I'm going to bet $5 that you guys don't either. Danny?
I do.
Well, Joshua is a 5'10" corner. No, I'm just joking.
Well played. And then there's a kid at the safety position named Doyen Jibu from Fort Hays State. What a great name. I probably mispronounced it. Have you guys looked at anything on Doyen Jibu?
I tried finding tape. I couldn't find anything on him.
Yeah, okay. What about Adrius Pickett from UCLA, the safety? He is coming to camp, and I know that Danny and Shayne have looked at some video of Mr. Pickett. What do you guys got on him?
I have on him. I know Berlissimo was all over him, but Danny, I think you were too, correct?
Yeah, I got some tape on him, and as I was watching it actually this afternoon, 2-year starter, led UCLA in tackles this past season with 123, becoming the first UCLA defensive back to register 100 tackles since 2007. Second team All Pac-12, and let's see, he has some punt return experience as well. It's shade under 5'11", like 5'10" and change, 201 pounds, ran a 4.74 40. Does have a 1.63 10-yard split, which typically means he's got that short area burst. So when I start watching this tape, and the first words I put down was little big guy, meaning this guy is small in stature, but he plays big. And he's an intense competitor. He's quick to read and react. Very, very good in run support. And this guy can plant and drive downhill to fill in terms of a run defense. He can scrape over the top, sift through traffic around the line of scrimmage, and locate and fill his run lanes. In terms of, let's see, a lot of times they dropped him, they being UCLA, dropped him in the box and use him as an extra linebacker. So because of his ability to tackle and be able to physical at the point of attack, again, for a guy who's only like shade under 5'11", he tackles through the ball carrier, which you like seeing. He's a short tackler. He's solid in processing route combinations. So he's back there in he's a single high safety, and he kind of reads the quarterback's eyes, and he flows to the ball. So I like the way he does that. And he takes good pursuit angles to the ball. And like I said, he's always around the ball. So that's one of the things about him is that you always see him in the play, whether he's making a tackle, slipping blocks, or taking on blocks. As a matter of fact, he doesn't matter if it's a 6'6", 300+ pound lineman coming at him. He'll go in and all full bore and just take him on. So he's got that competitive toughness that you love seeing in guys that stature. Some of the downsides, obviously the height and size. Like I said, he's under 5'11". He's got short arms. They're barely over 30 inches. And it displays some of that lower body tightness. It's more noticeable when you see him trying to change directions quickly. And for a safety, a lot of times if you're back there and you're the lone guy back there and you're going to have to change directions quickly, it's not a good thing. So that's something that I wonder if he's going to be someone that's going to be played near the line of scrimmage. And then when he flips his hips, it's not seamless and smooth. It looks a little cranky or bulky, if you will. So some of the things like that, when you see him in drop back and coverage, kind of worries me a little bit. Some things I caught on tape. But in terms of him coming downhill, striking, running back, striking, lowering his shoulder into the chest of an offensive lineman to take on a block, this kid has it. He's got guts and he's got heart. So those are the things that pop out to me on tape about him.
Danny, I was just going through some of my notes. Did he play at the Shrine game?
I don't know. That's a good question. I have my Shrine list here somewhere, but I can't find it.
I was flipping through my notes, and I had Pickett UCLA, and I had the little thing on it to look at him more, and I guess I never did for whatever reason. But
I know my roster's here somewhere for the East West Shrine game. I can just find it. I'll be able to confirm that for you.
One of the things that I was impressed with this kid was the fact that as a senior, he practiced against Chip Kelly's offense. And he talked about that early in the college football season of having to go up against that quick pace. This is what he was told in terms of what his responsibilities were during these quick pace practices. And he said it was quite a challenge because he had to do a lot of things.
Knowing your assignments, getting everybody lined up, especially me being a safety, getting the linebackers lined up, telling the corners what we have on defense, what I'm doing, what the inside linebackers doing, outside linebackers doing. So it's just a lot of communication on the field.
So you got to be happy about a guy who had that role as a safety in a major college program where he's lining up players, he's telling them what to do, and he's doing it during a Chip Kelly practice where they probably doubled the amount of offensive plays that they typically run in a college practice. Pretty impressive. Danny, did you look up anything?
I'm sorry. Yeah, he was at the East-West Shrine game. I did find my roster, and he was there.
Okay, cool. What else did you have?
And then the other thing that you notice about him is you just mentioned the way he's a guy, you see him often on tape lining up his teammates, making sure they're in the right spot, the right position. So you can tell that he's mastered the defense. He knows where everyone should be, which is what you want in a safety. A lot of times the safety is that last line of defense, and they're the guys who see everything in front of them. So a lot of times you want to see that safety get these guys in position. If they're off, if the defensive end is a little bit more to the outside than they should be. Maybe he should be more towards the gap, So stuff like that, you like seeing that. And definitely you see when you watch Pickett, you see him, command that defense.
Well, this roster is ripe for the picking for a safety to step up, to provide depth there. Because, they are sorely lacking there. That's for sure. So that's another thing to keep in mind.
Yep, indeedy. All right, guys, we have gotten through the offense and the defense, and we absolutely have to talk about the special teamers that are invited to camp.
I got a good text or a good tweet from Brad Biggs about the Bears and their NFL record for specialists in a rookie minicamp.
Uh-huh.
The roster has 8 kickers, 3 punters, and 3 long snappers.
Wow.
8 kickers.
That's nuts.
That's unheard of.
Yes.
Pat Kerwin was on Sirius NFL Radio today, and he said he was at a off-season camp, and he saw 3 once, and he said it lasted for 1 practice.
I was just going to say that.
He said it was absolute chaos with 3.
Yeah.
So these guys are not going to be sticking around very long.
No, I bet you that by Saturday, half of these guys will be gone, and that by Sunday there will probably be 3 guys left standing, and at most 4, but I bet 3 guys. That's what I bet. One of the guys that might be standing is this kid from San Diego State named John Barron II. Dane Brugler over at The Athletic had him as his 5th-ranked kicker coming out of college behind Matthew Gay, Cole Tracy, Spencer Thompson, Myers, and Austin Siebert. So that's a pretty good ranking for a college kicker. He also has Emmett Carpenter on his list. He's got him at 7th, and he's also going to be at camp. Any comments on these 2 guys or any of the guys that are coming into camp? We've got this one kid, Casey Bednarski, who kicked a 63-yarder. I put that video up on Twitter at Bears Barroom. Your thoughts on any of these guys, and you've heard anything about these guys? Anything you want to share with our followers?
Yeah, I'll go through and read here what they have on Our Lads from him on Barron II. It's actually, it's left-footed kicker, and that's something that, Danny brought up and had a great point. That's going to change a lot in terms of your long snapper. It's going to change, how aware O'Donnell is going to be, to receive the snap. So that's one thing. But Our Lads says he's a left-footed kicker who booted 3 PATs in the Shrine game. So that's another one that was there on the roster. A 2-time Lou Groza Kicker Award semifinalist that has kicked 6 field goals over 50 yards in his career. That's something that's pretty rare for a college kicker. So I would keep that in mind. And he was 5 for 5 in 50-yard attempts in 2018, and 45 of his 62 kickoffs went for touchbacks last fall. He handles the PATs, field goals, and kickoff duties. He's an extremely accurate and clutch kicker. Career field goal percentage is 83.3%. Average 62.8 yards per kickoff. I guess it's kind of hard to call him extremely accurate when he's 83%, but boy, we'd certainly take 83% right now, wouldn't we?
Yes, absolutely. Danny, any thoughts?
Yeah, in terms of me, the guys that intrigue me is this Chris Bluet That Casey Bednarski, the guy you tweeted out, it was a 70-yard field goal, and he does a back flip, shirtless, by the way. He probably won't be doing that at Soldier Field.
No.
And then this John Barron kid, the John Barron II. So I like to see how these guys compete and how they do in camp. The other guys, I mean, Redford Jones, maybe. Elliott Fry, maybe. But I guess of the kickers that are in there, what is it, 8 you said? 8 kickers or 5 kickers or
eight kickers, 8 of
them.
Yeah.
These 3 really intrigue me because I think these 3 have probably the strongest legs of the 3, of the 8, I should say.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but maybe it was somebody was on our show or somebody tweeted out that had heard that the Bears internally were very high on Blewett or Blue A, however you really say it. And that was the guy that Ryan Pace pointed out that he didn't watch him. He listened. Yeah. He turned away from it and he listened. And, who knows how it's going to work out. But, I mean, this John Barron and Chris Blewett, maybe at the end of this, maybe these are the 2 guys that you're bringing to camp. Who knows?
And, Shane, you mentioned also they brought in Justin Yoon, the kicker from Notre Dame, who I think was if I remember correctly, he was a pretty highly decorated high school recruit that Notre Dame got. I think he's a soccer player, if I'm not mistaken. That he had an up and down career at Notre Dame, from what I can recall. But he's another kid that's been added to this mix as well.
Yeah, some of these kickers are guys that could really benefit from an American Alliance football league. Some of these guys just need to go away, do some kicking outside the NFL, and perfect their skills, and also, kicking more big games, because so much of what happens to these kickers happens between their ears than it does with technique. And I think we saw that with Cody Parkey. He just was not mentally tough enough to handle the big pressure kicks.
This is such an important position on the team, and I know a lot of people, tend to push special teams aside, but, we have a quarterback coach. There's a wide receivers coach. There's a special teams coach. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be against there being a specialized kicking coach, a guy that's, right there with them 24/7, apply pressure. And how do you guys feel about adding once we move forward, and I know we have a lot of time to talk about this, I'd be willing to invest in putting a kicker on the practice squad to have another guy there to apply, that's another way to apply pressure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, that's a great idea, because especially, like you said, these are going to be unproven guys.
Yeah.
And I've been on the record as saying I still have this feeling they're going to bring in a veteran somehow, some way. Whether it's one of these guys that's on the the veteran kicking caravan that goes around NFL cities every year.
These guys could all fall flat this weekend. You don't know. They really could.
Yeah. Exactly. But you're right. I mean, if you are going to go with either it's one of these veteran has-beens that's been around the league, or if you're going to go with a young guy, you should definitely have some guy on the practice squad, and then just in case this guy you picked who won the competition is not doing the job. You cannot afford to lose games early on in the season because of your kicker. You just can't do that. Yeah, right? I mean, we've seen year after year the San Diego or now Los Angeles Chargers. How many times have they lost games early on in the season because they had a bad kicker? It ended up costing them towards the end of the season in terms of making the playoffs. You just can't give these games away. You got, like you said, Shane, this is a very important. We make fun of it, kind of joke around here, but this is a very important competition, and this is something that they have to get right. It's not like they need to get right; they have to get this right.
Yeah, all these guys are going to be young, and they're all going to be practice squad eligible. So, I mean, if you're going to camp with 2 and may the best man win, if it's close competition, I'm absolutely putting – have we had a left-footed kicker in Chicago?
I don't remember one.
I just remember Janikowski, but because, with the Raiders, but I don't remember a Chicago left-footed kicker.
Yeah, I mean, David Akers was fantastic in Philly, a lefty.
Yeah, I don't think it matters much where the guy is kicking from. I think, the holder, it's a little bit different. But
well, let's not make, it's a huge deal because, who knows, they talked to, Hub Arkish talked to Pat Manley about remember that was out there about these field goal kickers coming in, and their accuracy has decreased their first year in Chicago, and the one constant has been Pat O'Donnell.
Yep.
And they asked Pat Manley, can that make a difference? And he goes, well, you give me those numbers, and it's pretty obvious that it makes a difference. You know, and you see these visiting kickers come into Soldier Field, and they're kicking at a 92% clip in Soldier Field. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that's one of the underrated, I think, mistakes that Ryan Pace made this offseason is not only did he bring Pat O'Donnell back, he gave him a raise.
Mm-hmm.
And where's the competition there?
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get that.
You know, Shane, you make a great point because after one of Parkey's misses or one of his bad games last year, Nagy said in postgame that wasn't all on Parkey.
Yeah.
You know, so kind of, you know, hinting that it might have been the snap, might have been the hold or something like that. I think that's the game that I went back and I kind of looked at the hold. I looked at the snap and everything looked fine. But again, these kickers are so picky. They want the ball a certain way, laces out, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, maybe it was O'Donnell that led to, you know, that one particular miss or something like that. But
yeah, Pat Manley talked on Patrick Scales and his snapping ability, and he praised Patrick Scales, and he said the only thing that he needed to really work on is Patrick Scales was under the impression that the quicker you got the ball, the quicker you snapped the ball back there, you know, in terms of velocity, the better it was. And Patrick Manley said, no, it's not, you know, it's not always best to get it there as quick as possible because, you know, he was saying how fast he had it broken right down to, I mean, he can tell you exactly where the laces are going to be when, you know, he snaps it and, you know, he's got to make an adjustment and do this. And it's, you know, so I think it's a very underrated thing moving forward. And I wish it was something that or not just the national, but these local guys would bring up. You haven't heard any of them approach Matt Nagy or Coach Tabor and say, you know, Pat, your punter is the constant in this equation. Well, you know, what are your thoughts on that? Because even if he's going to give you a bullshit answer, that's going to get back to your punter, and that's going to play. And maybe Pat O'Donnell will say, well, Jesus, you know, I am the constant. Maybe, you know, I do have to do a better job. But to me, it's a fascinating scenario. And if we blow another season coming down to special teams, oh, Jesus, I hate to even think about it. Yeah. But it can easily happen.
Ed Obradovich, the longtime Chicago Bear defensive lineman who does radio work, he said, well, you know, let's not make a big deal out of this kicker thing because if the offense would have scored more than one touchdown against the Eagles, we would have won. You can't look at it that way, OB. Oh. You cannot.
It's a three-point league. The NFL is a three-point league.
Exactly. You have to look at it there are going to be many, many times during the course of a season where the kick is going to win the game. It just happens that way. And for you to dismiss that and for you to kind of blame it on the offense, scoring only one touchdown against a tough Philadelphia Eagles defense on a cold day where the conditions are not conducive to scoring a lot of points, it's wrong, OB, with all due respect. So, yeah, like Danny says, and you've been saying, Shayne, all season long, you got to fix this problem. This problem is huge. And the Bears have taken the approach of throwing a blanket over it and bringing in a lot of unknown players and having some tough competition. But that competition is quickly going to be dwindled down this weekend. I believe that you're going to see 5 of these guys be cut and 5 new players brought in at different positions because there's a lot of movement going on in the NFL with people being dropped and people being signed, and the Bears don't want to be left out of that because they don't have any roster spots open. You got to be ready to pick up on some of these guys that are being dropped. I just saw that former Chicago Bear John Bostic was cut by the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think he's a fit for this Bears defense, but you never know. if something happened, with an inside linebacker and we needed to bring somebody in right away, Bostic might be the type of guy that I'm thinking about.
You talk about bringing guys back. I don't think there's any coincidence. Brad Biggs sent out a tweet. The Bears have placed 3 players on waivers. Offensive lineman Dejon Allen, offensive lineman Willie Beavers, and wide receiver Cyril Grayson. You could easily see somebody like Allen brought back once some of these kickers are, jettisoned after the weekend, and then, they can fill in maybe a couple more safeties or whatever, like you said. So that's another thing to keep in mind.
Is that the same Willie Beavers that was with the Minnesota
Vikings?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was up at Mankato for camp over there. I got a press pass. And that guy was awful. Holy cow.
Hence why he's a former Bear.
Yeah. And, that's the thing. I mean, they drafted him in like round 3 or 4, right?
Third, fourth round, I want to say. Out of Arizona State.
Fourth pick.
Yeah.
Fourth pick, yeah.
But how many kickers do you think they'll take to camp when it's, finally narrowed down? You think it's 1, 2, 3?
I think you got to take 2. I think, Pat, I talked to you guys there a few minutes ago. Pat Kerwin was on. He said all his years in the NFL, he was around an off-season camp where there was 3, and he said it was utter chaos just with 3. We're talking 8. Yeah, I know it's only rookie minicamp, but Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace have made the comments that the Nagy plans to incorporate the media in this kicking competition. So, the way that they have to really work this to apply the most amount of pressure is the team is going to have to run sprints or do extra work if the kicker misses.
That's how it was.
No, I'm serious. That's your way to apply the pressure.
Death might be a better alternative.
Well, yeah, but I mean, what you have 340-pound Akeem Hicks, exactly. And it's 92 degrees out in Bourbonnais, and you go up there and you shank a kick. But I'm serious. That's the way that you're going to have to come up with ways to apply pressure that way.
That's dangerous because we will probably lose Akeem Hicks to prison because he'll be in jail for murdering John Barron II or Chris Bluet.
Grabbing that blonde-haired kid. What's his name? The blonde-haired one.
Oh yeah,
Casey
Bednarski, grabbing him by the hair and tossing him out of Bourbonnais. Yeah, that might. I think you better come up with a different thing there, Shayne.
Hey, how about we get all of us down there and we actually supply the pressure? We're the fans. We yelling out obscenities and all this stuff and blah blah. And that's got to be pressure.
Yeah, well, I tweeted
it was, but I think it's got to come. I know from the team. You may not agree with that. I think it's really got to come because. Listen, these guys have kicked in college. Mm-hmm. They've had people scream at them before. Mm-hmm. They've had fans scream at them. I'm sure they've called their mothers, bad things like I've done on this show lots of times. Right. But I'm telling you, you line up there with 89 other guys, and you're out there to kick you go out there, and Matt Nagy says we're going to end practice with a 54-yard field goal. He misses it, go line up. Mm-hmm. And you make that kicker stand right there at the goalpost that missed it, and everybody else is going to. That's your pressure. I'm telling you, don't dismiss that. That's pressure.
How about telling them, okay, guys, here is the deal. You get a kick, you miss it, you're cut. Pack up and get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. I don't think it can be a one and done thing because these guys are going to miss. But it's going to be interesting to see. I'm not just making a joke of it. It's going to be interesting to see how Nagy handles this. Mm-hmm. Because what are you going to do? Have Brad Biggs barreling down to fold this guy in half? Put a couple tacos in his back pocket and go get him. Or it's going to be interesting to see what they come up with and think about it. Why isn't more of that done with special teams guys?
Mm-hmm.
in Chicago, why are they ever kicking inside? Ever.
Yeah, I agree with that.
If it's 20 degrees, go out and kick. That's the worst part of their day. They're not doing a lot of stuff. Although Danny, you guys have been to training camp. Who's got it easier than kickers?
I think
they're literally standing on the side.
Exactly.
They go and they stand on the side and watch.
Exactly. So I'm telling you, we'll come back here, and I'll bet you that they're going to have something set up, at least something, not every single time, where the team is going to pay for the field goal kicker messing up. And hey, that works the other way too, guys. Barron the second goes out there and drills one from 56. That team's going to mob him. Maybe they get they get to sleep in for another hour or two in the morning rather than having a meeting right then.
Right.
That also builds confidence. So all that stuff matters.
And the one thing I do like about these kickers that they brought in is that the fact, except for, let's see, Elliott Fry kicked at South Carolina, and then John Barron kicked at San Diego State, but most of these kickers kicked in inclement cities. So Pittsburgh for Chris Bluet, Minnesota Mankato for Bednarski, Redford Jones was at Tulsa, and then the other kid, Emmett Carpenter, was in Minnesota. So at least they've kicked in inclement weather, which is a plus, especially when considering you're going to be making your living here at Soldier Field.
All those former boys trying out for Green Bay. Tracy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I hope he makes it, because I don't think he's got the spine to kick in the NFL.
There's another thing we keep in mind, guys. Like say for example, I don't think it's going to happen, but say for example, Cole Tracy goes in there and he beats out their kicker, and I'm now drawing a blank on his name.
Matt Crosby.
Matt Crosby. Do the Bears pick up Crosby as a veteran guy? Do you bring him in?
It's better than what you got. Absolutely.
Exactly. So that's the thing you got to keep in mind as well. Not only do we have these guys kicking for us, but we got to keep in mind what's going on around the league. Will Lutz came in and beat out Connor Barth with New Orleans, and that's what preceded then the Bears to go ahead and cut Robbie Gould to get Connor Barth, because they figured he was automatic within 40 yards or whatever it was. So it didn't work out, but that's something like that. You can see a rookie come in, or a young guy come in and beat out an established veteran. Dan Bailey is not on, he's not safe by all means in Minnesota. So if he gets cut, or something like that, for example, you come in and scoop him up. So that's also something to keep in mind as well.
Who was the kicker that Minnesota drafted?
That was last year. The kid from Auburn, and he went to the Raiders.
Yeah, and he kicked well.
Yeah, after he missed I don't know how many field goals in the first 2 weeks with Minnesota, he went to the Raiders.
It's like two or three field goals he missed.
Yeah, he's hitting 50-yard field goals for the Raiders. So
Carlson?
Carlson, there you go. That's what it was. It's Carlson, yeah.
I got a better idea on the pressure thing for the kickers. You tell a kicker that if he misses, that he's got to wear a Cody Parkey jersey in downtown Chicago.
Oh my God!
And walk around in Cody jersey.
I think they'd rather take on Akeem Hicks, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because I know if I see somebody wearing a Cody Parkey jersey, I'm going to be the one in jail.
Exactly, because Akeem would have some sympathy towards the guy.
Yeah.
Chicago fans will not have any sympathy if they think it's Cody Parkey walking down the street.
But you know what you do? I mean, you want to involve the media and involve the fans. At Family Fest, let everybody into the stadium for free and have a kicking competition.
Yes.
Part of it that night with the entire stadium rocking, and then on the friggin' scoreboard, I would just play that Cody Parkey kick over and over and over again while the guy's kicking.
That's fucking torture, dude.
Or every time
you have to do that. Build that environment where the guy's going to be shitting his pants. Let him come through.
I like it.
Or every time he approaches the ball to kick it, you blast that air horn until the field, just get a shot at him and see if he makes it.
Got to sign Lucy and have her pull the football. Whoops, sorry.
Good stuff. All right, guys, we're approaching the 2-hour mark, which is our stated goal. I want you each to share your final thoughts on this Draft on Tap episode. Actually, we should probably tell Danny, Shayne, what you and I were discussing earlier.
Oh, yeah.
This is not the last Draft on Tap episode of the season. we want to have more Draft on Tap episodes starting in August when the college football season starts gearing around. And we'd love Danny Shimon to be one of the hosts of that show, talking about college football prospects, talking about prospects that the Bears might be interested in, talking about the college football season, talking about rookies with the Chicago Bears who we should be following. Danny, are you ready to accept the challenge of being one of the co-hosts moving forward of Draft on Tap for the last half of the year?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah! It sounds like a publisher's sweepstakes. We just knocked on his door.
Danny, it's going to be really, really easy. You're just going to tell people to watch Georgia Bulldogs game.
Exactly. That's it.
That's right.
The SEC. That's all you got to watch.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
that's awesome. Yeah, that's great news.
That would be awesome if we could get an interview with that scout that patrols that area, because that guy is really responsible for a big part of
Somerville, right?
Is it Somerville?
Yeah, southeast. I believe that's Somerville.
Yeah, she's done an incredible job. So this is not the last episode on Draft on Tap. It just will it will appear occasionally if there's news necessary that we'll allocate to this Draft on Tap show. But starting, I think the college football season starts August 27th, if I recall correctly. And so leading up to that week, August 24th is the start date. So leading up to that date, Danny and co-host to be mentioned will be talking talking collegiate football players and talking about the upcoming draft and keeping us well informed, because we love the draft here at the Bears Bar Room, and we know how valuable it is. And with 5 picks in rounds 2 and 3 next season, the draft is going to be as important as ever in Chicago. And coming off a Super Bowl,
we don't have picks in round 3.
We have. Don't we have 5?
two second rounders.
2 second rounders, and don't we have 5 picks?
No 3, no 4.
Oh.
Correct.
Going to have multiple 5s.
We could get a 4 if Amos has a injury-free season. Yes.
Gotcha.
So the 3rd went to the Raiders as part of the Mac trade, and the 4th just went to New England as part of the Montgomery trade up. So we have 2 seconds, no 3rd, no 4th.
The Howard could potentially become a 5th, but it's not looking good with Miles Sanders there in Philly.
Exactly. Yeah.
But don't forget, those 2 second rounders you make one trade with a second rounder down, you get those picks back.
Exactly.
Guys, perfect example. Seattle went into this draft with only 4 picks. They ended up with 11 by the time the draft was done. So you can, and if the Raiders' second round pick, which I'm expecting to be at least mid to high, second round territory, second round area, you can trade down from there, and you can multiply that into multiple picks as well. So, plus, do we get a comp pick for Bryce Callahan? Do you know?
No, it's not. It's not qualified. No, they were saying there was something. They were explaining it, Danny, and the friggin' equation is so crazy anyway. But no, they said that it won't qualify with who we've brought in and what we've had go out. But Callahan will qualify for it. But in another, not to go into 2020, but the Bears, being a Super Bowl contender this year, those 2 2s also allow you the ability to move on up.
Yep, exactly.
If you need to, somebody drops. Maybe there's a big time pass rusher that is dropping down. You have those 2 2s. That you can open up a whole bunch of different avenues, but we have lots of time to talk about that. But one more thing on 2020, I got to tell you guys, Adam Schefter, I don't know if you guys listened to his podcast.
No.
He said he's heard through the grapevine that they're shutting down the Vegas Strip.
Really?
For the NFL combine, or for the NFL draft next year, and that's where it's going to be focused, is on the entire Strip will be shut down for the NFL.
That's going to be insane. Jeez.
I'll be there.
We might have to do some shows from there. I'm just saying. Holy cow!
I agree with that.
Yeah, take the Draft on Tap series on the road to Vegas.
Yeah, I like that idea. Idea. Talk to my wife. She's got a lot of contacts in Vegas. Maybe she can get us a cheap room or rooms. All right, guys. So that is why it's important for this series to continue, because of just what Shayne was talking about and Danny were talking about, of the ability of us maybe to move back into the first round, about adding more draft picks with that high-value pick we're getting from the Raiders. Lots and lots of stuff. I know that I can't wait to hear about all the top prospects who are coming out in 2020. I love this draft. It's one of the most entertaining things in all of sports. Just the TV ratings for the NFL draft itself, it's getting higher ratings than NBA and NHL playoff games.
600,000 people showed up at total for the fucking draft. They're reading names off of a card.
That's amazing.
It's crazy.
Meanwhile, Mike North is watching the Cubs or something.
Who cares?
Yeah. I don't care if it's the 7th. When they went up to announce the Kareth White pick, I was just as excited if it was our first round pick.
Oh my gosh!
I love every part of it.
Absolutely.
I mean, guys, just looking at our undrafted free agent that we signed, if you look around the league, a lot of teams got really good players. Because a lot of guys made bad decisions, like we said earlier. 144 underclassmen declared for this draft. I think 80-something were drafted, if I remember correctly, the number, what it was. So it's like a lot of guys out there, a lot of teams actually made out with undrafted free agents. You'll see a lot of these guys stick on rosters. So that's the thing. We're talking about, our lack of draft picks. Again, if we have a young kid, a rookie that's challenging and competing for a spot, and we have a veteran that has some sort of market value, hey, if you get a 5th round or 6th round pick from him, you might do that as well. So you can always accrue more draft picks as the year goes on. And we also mentioned, trading down, so on and so forth. So, but yeah, I mean, and after about a week now, I'm going to start making my top 250 list of seniors for next year's draft. And then I also make a top 100 list of juniors that I'll be watching throughout the season. Obviously, players can work them or play themselves off the list or play themselves on the list. So that's something to also look forward to. I'll be producing as well.
Awesome. Final thoughts, guys?
Buckle up.
Exactly.
Can't wait. It's the way that the season ended. This off season, while free agency wasn't super exciting, it's the perfect elixir, to get you through. And I do sometimes worry about the month of June because the NFL kind of shuts down and these guys go on their vacation and stuff. But that's what's beautiful about having this draft class and this high volume UDFA class, because it's all those guys that we didn't have anything on yet. We're gonna, it's gonna give us time to dive in and really, focus down on these guys and see what's going to be best for the Chicago Bears. So these are exciting times, and this is going to be, this is the first step to the Lombardi. And I believe it in my bones. This team's going someplace.
I agree with you. Shimon, your final thought.
Yeah, again, this whole draft process, we were stating earlier on, we only have 5 picks, but guys, don't worry. We're going to get players. We're going to get good players with good value. Hence, we got David Montgomery, we got Riley Ridley, I'm really, really excited. And Shayne, I think you're in the same boat here with Duke Shelley and the 7th round pick, Stephen Denmark. I know you like Kareth White. Yep. So, I mean, these are all guys that are going to come in and have a chance to make this roster. This battle with Stephen Denmark at whether he's a corner or he's a safety or whatnot, that's going to be so damn intriguing to keep an eye on during training camp, during the offseason, how he develops. Does he make the roster? Are they going to be able to sneak him onto their practice squad? It's like stuff like this. It's, the undrafted free agents, Emmanuel Hall, Dex Raymond, guys that we would have been ecstatic if they drafted in the 6th or 7th round. They get as undrafted free agents. So there's always talent to be had. And I think Ryan Pace and the scouts did another great job in terms of corralling some of that talent. And now off to training camp and let's see it all play out and see who makes a team and who doesn't.
Gentlemen, it has been an honor to follow the draft with you guys and learn from you and interact with you during this period. Again, this is not the last episode of Draft on Tap for the season. It will be back. And in the meantime, we have all sorts of programming on Bears Barroom Radio that you can listen to. And then there is the return of 100 Proof, a date to be announced. The Mike North Advantage has 2 shows a week. I know the guys Tooch and Joey Mandel have their program. We got all sorts of stuff. But our focus, first and foremost, is always the Chicago Bears, and so we'll be doing a lot of that during the offseason, entertaining you with fun stuff and important news regarding the Bears, who we love. Again, guys, I want to do a quick shout-out to the NFL Network, to Football Game Plan, Emory Hunt's place. If you're not subscribed to Football Game Plan on YouTube, shame on you. He's got about 20,000 people subscribed there, and you should be subscribed as well because they're providing great information on football talent and football news. Eyewitness News in Utica, Irish Illustrated, Appalachian State Illustrated, and Matthew Joy, they were all nice enough to let us use some clips from their coverage of college football and college football players. So thank you to them, and thank you for listening. Remember to always please give us a review on iTunes or whatever service you're listening to. Let other people know about what we're doing here at the Bar Room. It's really important to us. And one last thing, remember, if you drink, please do not drive, and always bear down!
Bear down.